Okay, let's get started. Okay, we are going to start with the Lord's Prayer. I found a different version. This is the Passion Translation, which I've used a couple times in this course so far. So here we go. Our Heavenly Father, may the glory of your name be the center on which our life turns. May your Holy Spirit come upon us and cleanse us. Manifest your kingdom on earth and give us our needed bread for the coming day. Forgive our sins as we ourselves release forgiveness to those who have wronged us, and rescue us every time we face tribulations. I really like that version. Okay, so last week we talked about kind of the basics that the Maslow's hierarchy, food, water, sleep, and how optimizing that bottom tier is actually really, it's simple, but it's still important. We talked about HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, thirsty, as a technique, a tool to use to kind of remind you to eat, go outside, talk to a friend, sleep. And then the assignment to notice throughout the week, you know, if you're feeling stressed or have some sort of negative emotion, could it be tied or a little bit partially linked to one of these basic needs needing to be met? And then read if you had time to kind of do some further research on your own. So this week is finding positivity in a negative world. So this is pretty timely. I have the TV there as kind of, I mean, I've heard y'all talk about it. Everybody I talk to, it's always about the news. My husband and I were talking, and usually you can kind of tune out the news if you want to, but it's so prevalent, like wherever you are, it is just so, it's everywhere, and it's, you know, important to us that we know what's going on. So just thought I would tackle this issue. So the negativity bias. This is actually our tendency not only to register negative stimuli more readily, but also to dwell on these events. So I have this little cartoon you can read. It says the little heart is saying, brain, look at all this good stuff. And then the brain says, not now, can't you see I'm busy? It's looking at like this one little bad thing. And so that's the negativity bias. And our behaviors and attitudes tend to be shaped more powerfully by the bad news, the bad experiences and bad information that we encounter. So this is a human thing. This is our brain's way of trying to protect us and let us know, hey, something's going on, be on high alert. And as humans, we tend to remember traumatic experiences better than positive ones, recall insults better than praise, think about negative things more frequently than positive ones, and respond more strongly to negative events than to equally positive ones. So when I was researching about this really hit home for me. You know, and maybe you've thought to yourself, oh, I'm so negative, why can't I just get out of this? It's just really human. So take heart in knowing that it's a very human thing to be drawn in and find yourself wanting to know more about the negative stuff in the world. So we're going to talk about what do we do like to overcome this. The first one is going to be establish boundaries. And some of these tips may seem really obvious, but again, they're very important and a good reminder for what we need to be doing. So the first one, limit news to a certain period of time. It's going to be different for everybody. You may say, you know what, just 1 hour a day or 1 hour in the morning, 1 at night. It's going to be different for what you're able to handle, or not after 5 o'clock. Something that feels like you can get away from it. And then if with others, this one can be trickier because I know that I get trapped in that kind of, let's talk about all the bad stuff in the world. But we need to remember that we're allowed to change the subject. So let's talk about sports, or can we take a break from talking about the news? This is okay to say. This is something important so that we don't spend hours and hours, you know, unless we want to, but generally sometimes it can just make our mood worse and worse if we keep talking about it. So first tip, establish boundaries with negative information that you are encountering. This next one will not be a surprise, probably. Practice gratitude and savoring. So gratitude is basically appreciation for what you have, being thankful. I think we all kind of know that. Interestingly, it's not comparing yourself or having perspective. Gratitude is not going, well, no, at least I, have this. At least I know I have it better than many people. It's not that. It's not comparing. It's actually saying, I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my house. I'm thankful. So that's what gratitude is. Savoring is kind of a new one for me, even though I've experienced it. I haven't heard that term. So savoring is when we attempt to fully feel, enjoy, and extend our positive experiences. So this is like if you're, seeing the rainbow or spending time with your kids or doing something really great, in that moment, really, really enjoying it. And that is going to, do good things for your brain to remember those experiences later. It's easy sometimes to just kind of go through life and not enjoy our present moments, but savoring is a good way to do that. So, good thing about gratitude, there's lots of articles and research about why gratitude is important. And this article I found said it reduces toxic emotions. It increases happiness and well-being, but it also kind of pushes out those negative feelings, those bad toxic emotions. So that's really great news, I think. And then gratitude leads to a virtuous cycle. So what this means is when we are grateful, we appreciate something, it releases dopamine, which is like, I'm not a sciencey person, but it's a feel-good hormone, I think. It helps us to feel good, I do know that. And so when we start to feel good, now our brain says, well, I want to look for more things that can make me happy. So then our brain starts to look for those things to make us more grateful. And then again, we're grateful. So it's a really good loop. And it's just something as simple as being grateful. Also, the research I read said that this doesn't have to be every day. I prefer to do it every day. It's a good habit. But they said even like once a week shows like it's helpful to getting into this virtuous cycle. So definitely adding in gratitude is super helpful to pushing out those negative emotions. This one, redirect attention. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the news and all the negativity, just remember to remove yourself from that situation. Go on a walk, read a book, work on a hobby, do something you enjoy. This may not be, sometimes I just kind of get stuck on my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, but remember that you can remove yourself and do something more enjoyable with your time. So let's see. Okay, now we're gonna move on. So we covered the negativity bias and now we're gonna talk about negative self-talk. So negative self-talk is all about what we tell ourselves. For me, I notice it's very automatic. We have years and years of things that we've told ourselves. This person says, what were you thinking? You can't sing. That's a mistake waiting to happen. Loser. I can't read the other one. Let's see. You won't get the job. Things like that. And so that does contribute to negativity. This quote from Socrates, we are what we think we are. So tip number 1, replace negative self-talk with realistic self-talk. So let's see, we've got this guy and he says, I am really sad. Seems like something we would say, it doesn't seem like a big deal. However, the phrase I am is a little bit problematic. It indicates that's his identity, that's who he is. So something more realistic would be, I feel really sad now. That's realistic. Now, it's not negating that he's sad. And I think it's important, some people want to say, well, just say I'm really happy, be affirmative, be positive. But I don't know that that's necessarily helpful. We need to be honest with ourselves and our emotions. It's okay to feel sad. We just need to be careful and selective with the language we use because it does affect our brain. The next example is everything is terrible. So again, the problematic word here is everything. We don't need to then turn it into, well, yep, life is just wonderful. We don't need to say that. We can just say something like, parts of my life are hard right now. And then, but I do have an amazing family that loves me. That's realistic. So that is tip number one when you catch yourself saying things. And a lot of times, if you say something like everything or always or never, those are good indicator words that you may be not using something realistic when you're talking about your condition or your stressors in life. Tip number two, what would I say to a close friend? So I know that when I have friends that come to me and say, I'm having a hard time, I'm struggling, I had a terrible day, or I was mean to my kids, or something like that, I'm always super encouraging. You know, you're trying your best. I'm here for you. It's okay to be sad. Take some time to rest and recharge. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. This must be really hard. Those kind of comments. So do we say those things to ourselves? Not always. You know, I will find myself saying terrible things like, I should have known better, or why do I still feel this way? But I would never say that to a close friend. So when you catch those thoughts, it's good to think about, well, why am I not treating myself as I would a friend? And then this is a acronym. You may have heard of some of it. Think about your words. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So this can be for words, thoughts that you're thinking. Again, you have to catch the thoughts, and that is a tricky thing. We have a lot of automatic thoughts, but also when going to speak, you know, we're dealing with this negativity bias. We're talking to people about what's going on in our life. And this is a good little reminder of saying, you know, if you say everything is terrible, you can kind of go through this list. Well, that's not really true. I do have good things going on in my life. You know, this is a really good framework, I think, to work with your words, your thoughts, as a kind of a filter to catch only the good stuff. Okay, and then this idea, basically, what are we filling up our cup with every day? So this is a cup of water. You know, every day we're bombarded with the news, people, demands. We've got our life filling up. And at some point throughout the day, our cup will overflow. So I'm going to kind of explain this analogy a little further. So this scenario is filling up with negative self-talk. If you're reading, watching, listening to negative news, if you're talking to people who are always negative and not establishing boundaries, if you're spending a lot of time thinking about your past mistakes, then your overflow, after you fill up with all of this all day long, your overflow might be that you're pessimistic about life. And now you have negative beliefs about the world, others, and self. And you might even dwell on dark thoughts. This is not what we want. So what we could do, we could choose to fill up our day with positive self-talk, limiting or eliminating negative news and media, establishing boundaries with people who are negative, and practicing gratitude and savoring. So when we do all of these things, I'm sure you can guess what will happen. She looks a lot happier. We've got our overflow. Now we're more optimistic about life. We have positive beliefs about the world, others, and self. And now we're reaching frequent positive thoughts. So we've got to be really conscious of what am I filling up with every day. A lot of these things we can choose, like the amount of news we watch, the people when it's tricky, because you do have to establish boundaries, and sometimes we're at work with people and we can't really escape them. So that one's tricky, but we can do what we can on our end to surround ourselves with positive Positive stuff. Okay, I have a little anecdote. You may have heard this before. This is the story of two wolves. I found this very relevant. So one evening, an elderly Cherokee brave told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one that you feed." So that is just a really good, I think, example of what we feed. You may have heard this quote. I love it, is whatever you feed will grow. So we want to feed the good stuff in our life. And it can be tricky, especially now with all that's going on. So we do have to make an effort. We have to surround ourselves with positivity, practice gratitude, make an effort to do these things. Mental health and the Bible. So this one you may have seen before. We've got, "Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." So that's just kind of what we're talking about right there. The next one, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Okay, and we're here with our mental health toolbox. Again, these are kind of the things that I use to add some more positivity to my days. Music. I love music. Upbeat songs are my favorite. This is super important to me. I have Spotify, and I come up with lots of different playlists for different moods and, exercising and all sorts of things. So highly recommend, if you don't already, getting a really good list of music to start your day or when you're in the car or something like that. And laughter. Life is pretty serious. I'm not going to refute that, but if we can find time to, chat with a funny friend or watch a funny show, these things are so good for our body, our brain, so that we don't get trapped in this negativity, because that's not what we want. Okay, the assignment, a news fast, and I think that says reflection. So if you so choose, intentionally stay away from news for a period of time this week. There's some ideas here, and this is all up to what you would like to do. A day, all weekend, no news after 5. Come up with some kind of boundary, and then use this time to do something that makes you happy. Realize that your time away is going to be good because you'll get to do something that you want to do. And then reflect or journal about your experience. How did it make you feel? And there's no wrong or right here. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it was blissful and wonderful. You might feel anxious. It's really good to start reflecting and being aware of what all the negativity does to us. It's going to be different for everybody. For me, I'm a pretty sensitive person, so it really gets to me. Other people are just not their personality. It doesn't really affect them as much. So this is kind of your challenge to see, what would it be like to just kind of take a break, make it seem like a little retreat. And then think or journal about 5 things you were grateful for. I recommend every day. It's a really nice, quick little way to start your day, or just think about it. But like I said, even if you do this just once a week, lots of benefits of doing that. Okay, and so today we're going to do just a little bit of a discussion. This is week 3. We've kind of learned some things. So My question to you, no right or wrong, but have you had any light bulb moments yet? Have you had any key takeaways? What are some insights that you've learned or that you want to share with us? That's kind of my question to you. So